and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them.
You know, guys, one thing that I have noticed is that my voice cracks a lot, but everything will be all right,
I know that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different, and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, we cast a guy in the movie.
Right.
Andrew Burnap, great dude.
Yeah. If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress with an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
I'm a narcissist.
Disney, the studio that has mastered the art of printing money, somehow thought it was a genius idea to remake Snow White, a film that has stood the test of time for nearly a century, into a live-action spectacle that nobody really asked for.
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
But here we are watching yet another beloved classic get dragged through the modern-day Disney machine, where originality goes to die, and nostalgia is repackaged, resold, and inevitably ruined.
Oh, man. You're just ruining it. Look at my lips. You're ruining it.
Now let's start at the beginning.
In the beginning.
The film was doomed from the moment Disney decided to take Snow White, a simple, beautifully animated fairy tale, and turn it into a bloated, modernized version of itself. And if you were worried that this would be another one of Disney's live-action reimaginings that sucks the soul out of the original, well,
Congratulations!
you win the most predictable bet of the year. But the real disaster? Casting Rachel Zegler as Snow White. Now, before the pitchforks come out, let's be clear, this isn't about her ethnicity. It's about the fact that she spent nearly 2 years trashing the movie she was supposed to be promoting. She mocked the original, dismissed the prince as a weird stalker, and assured everyone that this new Snow White wouldn't be dreaming of true love. Instead, she would be a strong, independent leader who doesn't need a man to save her.
And it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Sounds inspiring, right? Except the whole point of Snow White was that it was a fairy tale, not a TED Talk on leadership and self-sufficiency. And then there were the dwarves, or should I say the creepy CGI abominations that replaced them. Disney, taking advice from Peter Dinklage, who apparently thinks he speaks for all little people, decided that traditional dwarves were problematic. So instead we got a bunch of random human-sized misfits that look like they walked off the set of a low-budget fantasy knockoff. Good job, Disney. You managed to take one of the most iconic parts of the original movie and turn it into nightmare fuel.
What the hell is even that?
Of course, none of this mattered to Disney executives who were confident that Snow White would be another billion-dollar hit.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
That confidence lasted right up until the first trailer dropped and was immediately ratioed into oblivion. Fans weren't just skeptical, they were furious, and every attempt at damage control only made things worse. The final nail in the coffin? Disney quietly delaying the movie, doing extensive and expensive reshoots, and then pretending that everything was fine.
That's okay. Things are going to be okay.
But everything was not fine. When the review embargo finally lifted, just 24 hours before release, a classic sign that a studio has zero faith in its own movie, the results were about as bad as expected. Critics gave it a polite shrug, while audiences, they ripped it to shreds. And the box office, oof. Snow White limped to a disastrous $43 million domestic opening, barely scraping together $87 million worldwide, a number that wouldn't be that bad if the movie hadn't cost upwards of $250 million to make.
Where's the money, Lebowski?
And yet, despite all this, Rachel Zegler took to social media to celebrate the fact that Snow White was the #1 movie in the world. Sure, Rachel, it's the #1 movie in the world, in the same way that being the only person in a race means you technically won. Meanwhile, Disney executives are probably wondering if there's a way to write this one off as a tax loss. So, what did we learn? Well, for one, audiences aren't stupid. People don't want classics reimagined into something unrecognizable. They don't want lectures in place of storytelling. And they definitely don't want to pay money to be insulted by actors who clearly don't care about the legacy of the films they're in. At the end of the day, Snow White 2025 will go down as yet another example of Disney's obsession with remaking the past instead of creating something new. It didn't recapture the magic of 1937. It crushed it under a mountain of CGI, bad PR, and misguided corporate decisions. So, congratulations, Disney. You didn't just remake Snow White, you turned it into a cautionary tale. At this point, it's not even about wokeness or modernization. It's about quality. It's about respecting the stories that built their empire instead of tearing them down. But hey, Disney will probably keep doing what it does best, ignoring criticism, doubling down, and acting surprised when people stop showing up. Will they learn? Probably not. But after this box office catastrophe, maybe, just maybe, they'll finally start listening. If you made it this far, you deserve a medal, like share and subscribe, unless, of course, you're planning on watching Snow White, in which case, well, don't say I didn't warn you.